Boom! What's up, y'all? Welcome to the DJ Kenny Parker Show. We do this every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope you guys are having a great summer. The summer is starting to wind down. Summer is my favorite time of year, so I'm not very happy about that. Shout out to Spook Realm 4Q in the building. You are first today as usual. What's good, my brother? E-Money, what's up? Say, what's good, DJ Kenny P? Hope everything is good. Everything is great. Gregory Nettis, what up? I see a lot of people in here early. Maddie Cakes Muhammad, what's good? El Tico Loco. Oh, I think I get this wrong. El Tic Go Loco. What's good? Don Dallas TV. Yo, peace and blessings. Haitian Space Program. Haven't seen you in a minute. What's good, Haitian Space Program? Haven't seen that name in a minute. I see some of the other regulars. GF Warrell. Once again, back. It's the incredible Rhyme Animal. Shout out to Public Enemy, Chuck D. JT. Peace to the Tuesday Live crew. Yes, Great Beard, what's up? MMA Crossfire, what's good? This is a name I haven't seen before. Please listen to my playlist. Popcorn Yellow Stripe Smile, what's good? Latrice Washington, what's up? Imperial Jada MC, what's good? I see all the regulars in the building. Let's see. My Eagle Wolf, what's up? Haven't seen you in a minute either. Checking in from Winnemucca, Nevada. Winnemucca, Nevada. Shout out to Nevada. I've never been to Nevada. I've flown over Vegas before on our way to LA. On like a little as we did a show one time. We were on our way from one Midwest to LA to do radio. I think it was Power 106 out there. And this is 1995. We were on a tour bus. It was BDP. Well, it was KRS-One at that point, but it was us. Channel Live was on the bus. Shout out to Channel Live. Randy, rest in peace, my nephew. We were all on this bus, and the bus broke down in the desert. And Jive Records had to get a private plane, or sort of like a private, get us to a private plane to get us to LA in time for the radio show. And me and Chris, I think it was just a few of us, me, Chris, and our road manager, I think, jumped on this private plane, and we flew over Nevada. I do remember that. That was in 95. I just thought about that whole ridiculous story when I saw Nevada on here. So sorry, y'all. Let's had to get that out. Imperial Jada MC, still waiting to get my copy of your book signed. Man, I got some book signings coming up. I'll let you guys know. Rosmel, what's up? FU2 is in the building. Heavy Nickel TV. I see a lot of new faces on here. That's dope. Anyway, I love that name. What's up? Ilroy, what's up? Terrell McMillan. I see all the regulars. Corey Flood, DJ Platform 204. Peace from Canada. So El Tico Loco says it's El Tico Loco. I think I got it. Did I get it right the first time? I know I didn't get it right the first time. Verse Pro, what up? Bug, what up? Ace Steel. CMC's Technique. DJ Kenny Parker is down with us. Yeah. When did Chris say that? He said Kenny Parker is down with us. Still number one, numero uno remix. One of those slept on B-side Boogie Down Production classics. One of my tops. B-side BDP records. Sweet Goldilocks, what's up? The way my face lights up when I get the Kenny Parker notification. Yes, thank you. Please hit the like button if you haven't got a chance to hit the like button. I know most of you guys on here are already subscribed. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. It helps us out. DJ Rich Smooth, peace and have a great show. Thank you so much. Ed Olivier, what's up, KP? I'm in the check-in. Did you talk to Chris about LL? No, I did not talk to Chris about LL. But I will. H. Bippy, what's up? H. Bippy in the building. Always good to see H. Bippy. Corey Flood. DJ Platform. Hey, Kenny, would you agree that the best hip-hop album of the 80s is Public Enemy? It takes a nation of millions to hold us back. If not, what would you say is? Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that. I mean, there's a few great ones, a handful that I would put in that same breath. But overall, I'm not mad at that. I'm gonna go with yes on that one. There were some great debut albums especially in the late 80s. Slick Rick, The Great Adventures was great. Paid in Full, Criminal Minded, 3 Feet High and Rising, Straight Outta Compton. Great bodies of work. Eric and Parrish. But I would put PE. If you want to put PE at the top, I have no problem with that, man. Ikey. Peace, DJ Kenny from Rochester. Shout out to Rochester, New York. We used to do a lot of shows. In upstate New York. Always rocking, man. My Eagle Wolf says, currently in northern Nevada, about 2 or 3 hours from Reno. You way out there. Sheesh. Reno. I've never been to any of these places. I'm just thinking Cowboys. Am I wrong? Not the Dallas Cowboys, but Cowboys and Indians. Let me do my Benny Doyle scroll down. I'm starting early, Benny Doyle. Benny Doyle's not in the building yet, but I guess he will be. Mike Rocks 25 says Jersey in here heavy. Shout out to Jersey. Y'all know that. Well, you may know I went to college in Jersey. Shout out to St. Peter's University. Dartmouth said, what if I told you Illegal Business is my favorite KRS song? What would you say? Well, that was a great song. An album cut would be your favorite song. Is pretty interesting. It's a great song. Great concept. Chris had some great concepts. He spoke on stuff, especially early in his career, well, through his whole career, but that people hadn't really spoke on yet. That whole By All Means Necessary album was incredible. It's probably right at the top of my favorite Boogie Down Productions albums. Kennard Roberts said, KP, did you make the beat for the song Throttle? That was nice. Yes, I did make that track. Thank you very much. I have a whole breakdown of the Sex and Violence album on this channel. I go through a whole breakdown of what I remember of the making of that album, and I talk about that song as well. So thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I appreciate anybody who's like any beat I ever done. Even if you only like one beat I ever did in your life, and I'm going to say thank you. MMA Crossfire said we were spoiled in the 80s. We sure were, man. Plus, everything was so new. Like, you, not only were you spoiled, but you weren't ready. Like, you weren't ready to get hit the way we got hit. And a lot of these albums dropped within 12 months of each other. It was just bang, bang, bang. And you had no idea. There was like no precedent. So it wasn't like Slick Rick is coming, and you knew how it was gonna come. You didn't know Rakim was coming. Like you knew Rakim was dope from the first single, but you didn't know it was gonna be like that. So that's what made it so special. Like you had no idea what was coming. DeGuapisimo, Critical Beatdown is right up there with Nation. Critical Beatdown is another great album. It was a great album. I love Critical Beatdown. And we had Said G on this channel a few months back. Shout out to Said G. I need to get Cool Keith on here. That would be great. I love Critical Beatdown. Could you imagine if KRS was on Critical Beatdown and Cool Keith was on Criminal Minded, because they were all like working together at the time, even though back then collaborating wasn't a thing. But that would have been really incredible, man. CMC Technique says BDK, Here Comes the K. Yeah, Kane was great. Imperial Jada MC says Biz is good. All of these albums are dope, but It Takes a Nation of Millions is to me is another level up. That might have been one of the greatest albums of the year, period. Like I gotta remember what came out in '88. Big albums. But I would put that right up there. I mean, did George Michael drop in '88? Bobby Brown dropped Don't Be Cruel. But I would put It Takes a Nations right up there. Off the top of my head, I'd like to see what albums came out in '88, period. What was like the album of the year, period, because I would put It Takes a Nation right up there with all albums. This is funny, Lethal Flow. It's not funny, but I just when you mentioned it, Kenny says you're a connoisseur of dangerous New York City clubs. Unfortunately, yes. Not because they were dangerous, because they were popping. Have you been to Reggae Club Love People in Flatbush? No, but of Infamous, I've heard a fair share of bodies dropped in there and outside. No, I would never go to Love People because of that reason. Love People was just too dangerous. That was a reggae club in Flatbush. It was just too dangerous. And not far from there was the Biltmore Ballroom. BDP, the Biltmore Ballroom was another Jamaican reggae dancehall spot right on Church Avenue in Flatbush. And BDP did a show at the Biltmore. Actually, we did two shows in one night. One was at a hip hop club. It was packed. We killed it. And then we hurried up and left from there. Remember, we had a limo. And we rode from there to Brooklyn to do the Biltmore. And we got to the Biltmore, there was literally 10 people in there. And out of the 10 people, I would say 6 of them just happened to be in the Biltmore. Like they weren't there to see BDP. They were just inside. So really it was like 4 people that came to see the show and like 6 that was already in there. And Chris was like, yo, we gonna rock this 10 people. We did a whole set for like literally 10 Jamaicans. So you know Love People, you know what I'm talking about when I say the Biltmore Ballroom. But the answer to your question is no, I have never been inside of Love People. RIP to the people that place was, woo, it was every week, man, something was going on. E-Money said, what's your least favorite KRS song? That's a hard, I don't have a least favorite. Off the top of my head, I have to think about that song Nervous that was on by All Means Necessary. I know it was like a funny skit record But I wonder what was going on in Chris's mind when he put that song "Nervous" on the By All Means Necessary. I thought that was weird. Like on an otherwise incredible album, that was just like a weird record. And Essays on BDP-ism was not on that album. Like I would have took Essays on BDP-ism and put that there and took off Nervous. That's a funny question. I mean, off the top of my head, yeah, I'm gonna go with Nervous from the By All Means Necessary album. Rebuffer says, Love's Gonna Get You is mine. The beat was dope. The bass. Love's Gonna Get You. Shout out to pal Joey. I talk about him all the time on his show. Great producer. Shout out to pal Joey who did that track. And the way he was manipulating the bass sounds back in 1990 when that song was recorded was revolutionary at the time. And that was one of the biggest, I would say that's probably the second biggest radio song for BDP outside of Step Into a World would be number one. And I would say Love's Gonna Get You would be number two. And I meant My Philosophy might be number three. Now, I don't have the data in front of me. Chris would know better. But in my understanding of BDP, I would say Love's Gonna Get You was probably the second biggest around the country radio song BDP ever had. Ultra Say G does not get enough credit as a producer, especially for his mastery of the MP 2000, 1200. I think you mean the SP 1200. He does get credit on this show. We had Said G on this show. We talked for almost 2 hours, I believe. He gets super credit on this channel. We broke down his work on Criminal Minded. Go back and watch my Said G interview on this channel. He gets plenty of credit around here. CMC's Technique Heather B's album was insane. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I did most of the production on that album. Hey, Kenny, did you ever get to hang out with Mike Tyson? No, I did not. There's a picture going around that I saw online. There's a picture of Scott LaRock and Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson has his arms around Scott LaRock, and KRS-One is behind, like in the corner, pointing. It's a dope picture. So I guess Chris and Scott were pretty cool with Mike Tyson. I guess this was 87. Mike Tyson in 87 was that around his peak? He was the youngest heavyweight world champion in 87. So Scott and Chris did, but I never got to chill with Mike. Although I've seen him in the club a few times. I saw him right after he had the fight with Mitch Blood Green. Do y'all remember that fight in Harlem at the outside of Dapper Dan's, the legendary clothing designer? And Mike Tyson punched Mitch Green in the eye. And it was on the cover of the New York Post in New York City. And I remember like the next day, there was a party at this place called Studio 54, but it wasn't Studio 54. I think it was Studio 54 had reopened. So it wasn't like the disco Studio 54. They had reopened it. It was like 10 years later, and they had hip hop in there. And I remember up in the DJ booth, Mike Tyson was there, and he had a cast on his arm from punching Mitch Green in the eye. He broke his hand. I remember he held the cast up, and everybody was cheering, "Go Mike, go Mike!" Everybody was going crazy, and he held up his arm with the cast on it. I was in the place for that. I saw Mike Tyson in the tunnel, walking through the tunnel with his boys. Everybody was moving out the way. He looked like you ever see when there's a pit bull off the leash, like in the park, And everybody's like, yo, whose dog is that? Like, yo, and everybody's like clearing out because, a pit bull might just lose it. That's how people was moving out the way when Mike Tyson was walking through the tunnel. It's like he just did a walkthrough, like through the tunnel and was out. And everybody was like, yo. So I've seen him a couple of times. Those 2 times I saw him. But no, to answer your long-winded answer to your question, I never got to chill with Mike Tyson. But that would have been dope. It always says, you talk a lot about riding around with hip-hop artists back in the day. Who had the dopest whip? Well, there's a lot of guys who had the dopest cars. I don't really know. I'm not really a car guy. I used to ride around with Biz a lot. I remember he had, I think it was an 850 BM. When it first, I think it was only like 2 or 3 people in the whole city had an 850 BM. It was like a 2-seater. Is it an 850? It's like a 2-seater. And me and Biz was riding around, listening to his new album. It wasn't out yet. The album was Just a Friend on it. He had like a demo of that. We was riding around, listening to that, just riding all through the city. Eric B used to have a Rolls Royce in like 89. I'm gonna say he had the dopest whip. Eric B had I think it was a white Rolls Royce. He used to ride around a Rolls. And this is back when rappers wasn't really making money like that. So that was crazy. Big Daddy Kane had a Mercedes with like a wing, is it wing tips? Like wing indented like wings on the side. I think it was burgundy with like indented wings. I remember that. Chris had a regular BM. That's all I can remember at the time. I think Eric and Parrish had something dope too, but I can't remember. This is off the top of my head. That's a great question. I wasn't hanging around a lot of people, but I remember seeing certain people. Benny Doyle was good. Yes, he said, on my way down the Latin Quarter to find 2 more freaks. Yeah, rest in peace to Scott LaRock. 37 years ago today, Scott passed. Rest in peace to the great Scott LaRock, man. Wow, 37 years ago. Remember it like it was yesterday, man. Time just goes, man. Rough Rough is one of my favorite BDP joints. That was you, right? No, that was engineer D Square did that track. Shout out to Freddie Fox. I just spoke to him. I just corresponded with him a couple of days ago. D Square did that. Did you ever work with Dana Dane? No, I never did work with Dana Dane, although Dana Dane hooked me up. What year was that? 96, 97? He hooked me up with some guys out in Detroit. I forgot the guy's name, and I did a beat on this guy's album, Underground Detroit MC, and Dana Dane made the connect. And I flew out to Detroit to do some production on this guy's album. It was me and DR Period. DR Period's beats was banging, man. I wish y'all could. I wonder why MOP didn't work with him more, man. I wish MOP had worked with DR Period more. I wonder what that story is all about. Me and DR Period flew out to Detroit to do some work on this Underground Kids album. And Dana Dane hooked it up. But that's the homie. Shout out to Dana Dane. Corey Lindsay, Kenny Parker, salute. What was your best 80s year of hip hop? Well, I would say 88 was the best year musically, but for me, my best year was 86 because that's when my brother dropped, and I couldn't believe it. On a personal note, '86 for me was the best year, one of the best years of my life, to see my brother's dream finally come true. But '88 was ridiculous musically. Keith says, I can't see Keith on Criminal Minded. I don't know, man. I mean, he could have jumped on one of those beats, man. I don't know. It'd have been interesting. MMA crossfire. PE simply stood out to me on the most levels. Yeah, I'm going to go with PE. That Takes a Nation. It really cracked open the conscious era. KRS and PE dropped a month apart and started the whole conscious boom. The production was like nothing we ever heard. Chuck's power in his voice, the subject matter, flavor, the S1Ws. That album was, it could be the best ever. JT, so who heard the news that Chuck D is now working with the government and Secretary of State Blinken on his music ambassador program? I know I was sorely disappointed to hear that. I've not heard that. This is the first I'm hearing of that. Once again, I hold Chuck to the highest regard, so I would never comment on anything that he does. I don't even know what this is about, so I'm not going to comment on it and say I'm disappointed, because I don't even know what it's about. Jeffrey Guilty. Kenny, have you ever been to the Act 3 reggae nightclub in the BX in the 90s? I did not go to clubs in the BX. Nah, I didn't really go to clubs in the BX. In the 90s, late 80s, 90s, the clubs was just too wild, man. Manhattan clubs were wild because everybody from the different boroughs came to Manhattan. But if you go out, like there used to be a place called the Castle in the Bronx. I went there a few times. I think Kid Capri had the Castle on lockdown. And there was a skating rink out there that I went to once. Was it the Skate Key? Forgot what it was. I didn't go to the Bronx. I went to the Fever. Actually, we performed there. We performed a couple times at the Bronx. Outside of performing, I didn't really go to clubs in the Bronx that much. And I didn't go to reggae clubs that much. Reggae clubs wild, man. You think hip-hop clubs are wild? Yeah. Reggae clubs. And we did a lot of shows in reggae clubs too, man. Wild. Corey Flood says, Don't Be Cruel was the #1 selling album of 1988. Yeah. Didn't that go like 8 times platinum? That was the biggest selling, but was it the dopest? It was on the R&B tip. It probably was the dopest album. Keith Sweat dropped in '88 too. That Keith Sweat album, that first Keith Sweat album. Shout out to Teddy Riley, and that first Keith Sweat album. A New Edition dropped in '88 too, but I would say Bobby Brown, Don't Be Cruel. I would put It Takes a Nation of Millions over Bobby Brown. That's just me. Shout out to Eric Wright. Ari Buffy 3611 said Brand Nubian. Brand Nubian didn't drop till 90 though. Late 90. That was another great. I don't know if that album was big outside of New York, but in New York, there was a stretch of time where that Brand Nubian One for All album had New York on lockdown. Corey Lindsay said, Kenny Park, did you interview Sadat X and Lord Jamal from Brand Nubians? No, I did not. I need to hit up Sadat X too. That you just reminded me. Yeah. This is interesting. Dartmouth. Hey, I asked you why you had a dislike for YZ from I'm Thinking of a Master Plan song. YZ had a problem with BDP. We didn't have a problem with YZ. Didn't he say something about KRS on his album? I don't understand. I like KRS, but I don't understand, or something like that. Plus, he was rolling with X Clan too. So, and we had, for those of you that did not see, I have a whole X Clan versus BDP breakdown on this channel. I did it about a year ago or so, year and a half. Go back and watch that. X Clan versus BDP. I have the whole breakdown. But those that didn't see it, we actually had a big sit down in the Bronx. And when X Clan showed up, YZ was with them. But I like YZ. He's always been cool with me. My song was I'm in Control of Things. That was the fire. We have no problems. We had no problems with YZ. It's the other way around. Most of the beefs that BDP had, we didn't have any problems with these people. They had problems with us. Most of 95% of them. 99% of the beefs I said this last week. I counted off the top of my head in my time in BDP from 1990. I'm gonna go 90 to just from 1990 to 2000. I'm 10 years. We had at least 20 beefs. Most of them y'all don't know about. Some of them I spoke about on this channel. Some of them I haven't got to yet. And out of those 20 beefs, and MC Shan is before my time. Out of those 20 beefs, I would say BDP started one of them out of 20. That's my opinion. One. I would say Chris was probably wrong. Drake Stack Dollar said, KP, what's going? The channel needs some order. Seems like a lot of reaching for a shout out. Well, first of all, we don't have any order on this Kenny Parker show. We talk about whatever. We don't really have a format. We just come on here every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We just come on here and talk about whatever. And I like to shout out the regulars that come on. I thank you guys so much for taking the time out on a Tuesday night to just hang out with me and just talk BS. So, if people want to get a shout out, that I don't have a problem with that. If I'm shouting out too many people, I just see the names of the regulars and I'm going to shout people. I mean, I don't have a problem with that for me. So if for people that think I give too many shout outs, please bear with me. I'm just trying to reach everybody that I see. I'm looking at the comment section and I miss so many comments because there's so many. I just be scrolling. So I try to shout out as many people as I can. Divine is this is a piece, Kenny. Bobby Brown dropped Don't Be Cruel in 88. Yeah, Guy's debut album dropped too. Oh, that's right. Teddy Riley was on fire in 88, man. This is ill. Rosmel said, Rockness Monster answered a question about that boot camp versus mystical beef on his channel. That I wanted to ask Evil D when you were interviewing him. And you know what's funny about that beef? I don't know. First of all, I did not see what Rockness Monster said. But what's funny about that beef is BDP was on that show. We were there. And whatever problem they had, did Rockness Monster mention that there was a little confrontation between Boot Camp and Mystical, like live on stage? Did he mention that? Because there was, and we were there. No, we weren't there. We were on the bill. When we got to the arena, people that were there were telling us that this thing just happened, Boot Camp and Mystical. So I heard about this. We were there in the building. So I'm pretty sure Evil D was there too. Blasness gotcha. KP was the group Masters of Ceremony. Grand Poobah popular known when they came out in New York. They were. First they had the record Cracked Out. That Red Alert used to play that, and I remember going to see Boogie Down Productions live at Union Square. I think it was the second time I seen BDP perform, and the opening act for BDP was Masters of Ceremony. They did Cracked Out. And then when Sexy dropped, that record was big. That record even got some radio play. I think WBLS was playing that. So in New York City, Sexy was a big record. Shout out to Don Barron. Shout out to my man Grand Poo, of course. That record was big in New York. So I don't know where it was outside. I don't know what it was outside of New York, but in New York, Sexy was big. Dre Stack Dollar said, nah, to me, Nervous was fire. I got to go back and listen to Nervous, but in my mind, just rewinding, I haven't listened to that song in like probably a decade, but in my mind going back, I thought Nervous was weird on that album. Anyway, says I like Nervous too. Oh man, Papa says here, am I wrong about Nervous? Sound of the Police wasn't big. Sound of the Police was a big song, but it wasn't. It was a video was on a lot, but it wasn't a big radio record. It was big in certain spots. Hip hop heads knew it, but some songs break out a little more. I would put Sound of the Police as far as a KRS record on the radio. We'll see. I'm gonna go with New York City because outside, I mean, we got play out around the country, but you'd have to have like the charts there. I know My Philosophy was Chris's first big breakout record. South Bronx got a lot of play in New York City. That was one of his biggest New York City records, but I don't know how big that was around the country. My Philosophy was big around the country, and the video was on MTV Raps all the time. Love's Gonna Get You. I would say MCs Act Like They Don't Know was bigger than Sound of the Police on the radio. But Sound of the Police is one of the records that seemed like it got bigger as the years went on. It's like one of KRS-One's most recognizable songs. Like if you ask me name the top 3 or 4 most recognizable songs KRS-One ever did, I would say Sound of the Police is right at the top. People know that chorus that didn't even know KRS-One made the song, but they know that chorus. That was a big record, but not on the radio like that, if you understand what I mean. The radio was a little bit different. This is a great question. Kennard Roberts said, KP, do you think Chris should bring back the song World Peace? World Peace was on the album Ghetto Music. And I remember in 1990 or 91, right when the Gulf War had just started, might have been right around 91. And I remember when that started, I was told Chris, yo, you should go to Jive and tell them they should put out World Peace, even though the song is like a year and a half old. It was an album cut. That song would be perfect right about now because there was a lot of people feeling like that the U.S. shouldn't have been in the original Gulf War. And I was like, that would be a perfect song. Do you really want world peace at the time? And I told Chris that, and he was like, yo, that's a dope idea. But I don't think it went any further. I don't know if he brought it up to Jive or he just said it at the time. To me, it was a dope idea, but I mentioned it at that time, 91. Now, today, maybe I haven't heard that song. I have to listen to the lyrics because I haven't heard that song in a long time, but the chorus still applies. Sadly, that chorus, the song "Do You Really Want World Peace" could have came out at any point in the past 1,000 years. Really? Sadly, nothing has changed. Somebody's talking about basketball. Benedict said, yeah, Latrice Kenny was a high school buzzer beater away from playing against Rod Strickland way back in the day. Yes, shout out to Rod Strickland. Yep, I was a buzzer beater away from Lincoln High School against, what school did he go to? Truman. Brand Yakubian, a lot of people talk about this. Did you ever talk to Scott LaRock's son? No, I was supposed to, but it didn't work out. The logistics didn't work out. I don't comment too much on that whole situation because, one, it has nothing to do with me, but I indirectly my name got put in that. And I have a lot to say on that subject because, in my opinion, there's way more to the story than what you guys heard. But Chris has not talked about it as far as I know. So until KRS-One talks about it, I'm not going to talk about it. But if he ever does, y'all let me know because we're going to do a whole segment. Oh, man, I'm way behind on the comments. Pat S. said, Tyson tried to flirt with my sister at San Diego Comic-Con in 2015. Oh, that's not long ago. Oh. I'm way behind on the comments. Was Scott LaRock nice on the turntables? Did he have any battle skills? I don't know. I honestly have no idea. The only time I ever seen Scott DJ was at a BDP show. And he didn't really do a lot of tricks. He just really dropped the records. I seen Scott DJ in the show with a drink in his hand. That's how laid back he was. He's just dropping records and sipping a drink, and Chris was going and doing the songs. So I don't know the answer to that question. Dave Roberts said, does KRS still have that Jeep in the video? That was not his Jeep. I forgot whose Jeep that was. Oh, man, I knew the answer to that question, too. That was somebody's Jeep. That was not KRS-One's Jeep. That was a dope Jeep, though. I see a lot of RIP Scott LaRock. So didn't D Nice have an Acura? He did have an Acura. I think wasn't that in like 90 when Call Me D Nice was out? I think I remember when he bought that car. Aki says, KP, I volunteer to be a moderator when the time comes. Do y'all think the channel needs a moderator? I see a lot of, I don't know, to organize the comments. I don't know. I don't really have too many problems with the comments that I see. User unknown. Did anyone mention DLC? No One Does It Better LP. Definitely in my top 3 LPs of the 80s. Absolutely. One of Dr. Dre's best productions that doesn't get mentioned. I think DLC would have been one of the greats had he not had the accident. And absolutely. The album dropped in 89. In New York, to me, it felt like it kind of got its legs in like 90. I felt like the DLC's album kind of started to get its legs in like 90, but it dropped in 89. New York was late on the West Coast music. KP, do you have any stories about D Square? I used to hear Chris about him all the time. Yeah, D Square is the engineer. If you go back to, I have on this channel, who were the members of BDP? I have a whole breakdown of who were the members of BDP. And I showed you a picture of D Square, who he was. He was the engineer. After DJ Doc, I do believe DJ Doc engineered, I don't know what he did on Criminal Minded, but some of it or most of it. And then he did By All Means Necessary. I think he also worked on Just Ice's album too. And then Doc started doing other production, and D Square was like Doc's, I don't know what to call him, second in command, or like he protege, something like that. I think Doc told me that he named D Square D Square. I need to get DJ Doc on this channel. He said he was going to come up too. I just haven't had a chance to call him. I'm going to get DJ Doc to explain that. But D Square moved up in the ranks, starting with by ghetto music. And actually, D Square is the one who showed me how to work the SP1200. He showed me the basics. And then from there, I was off to the races. Shout out to D Square. And he engineered some big records like Naughty by Nature. He did OPP and all that. He engineered Nice and Smooth. He did a lot of big work. Shout out to D Square. JT says DR Period had the world thinking he was DJ Premier on Annie Up. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that DJ Premier did not do Annie Up. He probably did a lot of tracks on that album, but Annie Up and How About Some Hardcore was DR Period. And with that track record with that group, I wonder why MOP didn't use them more. Who knows? Corey Flex says, Cool Keith on a word from my sponsor would have been dope. There you have it. Yep. Suzanne Thompson, thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. I really appreciate it. She says, peace, Kenny. Love the book. Thank you so much. If you guys don't have the book, the link is in the description below. Get the book. A lot of the questions that you guys ask, I go into detail in the book about it. Thank you so much, Suzanne Thompson. I really appreciate it. And Terrell McMillan, thank you so much for your contribution. I really appreciate that. What's good, KP? On the real, bro, have you seen Antoinette lately? No, I've never seen Antoinette in my life. Damn, she fine. You really try and get her on the show. She got a book too. I know you have a real good conversation with her. I would love to. If I had a link. I've never met Antoinette. I've never seen Antoinette before. I just know her from the song I Got an Attitude and her battle with MC Lyte. DJ Platform, hey Kenny, top 5 hip hop albums of all time. PE, Wu-Tang, The Chronic, Nas, Biggie Ready to Die. Thoughts? That's a good 5. My 5 might be a little bit different, but I like that 5. I don't have a problem. There's been it's hard to put 5 is hard, man. That's because you could take that out and put 5 different ones in there, and that would be fine. I don't have a problem with that. No problems. My 5 is slightly different, though. Brand Jacobian, Kenny, how old were you when you first met Scott LaRock? See, these are the kind of questions that I go into great detail on my relationship with Scott. To answer your question, I was 20. I just turned 20. Mike Rock 25. Didn't Babyface produce Don't Be Cruel? I think he produced that song, Don't Be Cruel, but I think Teddy Riley did a bulk of it. Teddy Riley did My Prerogative and something else. Who did Roni? Roni was a dope record. Anime Cross like, yeah, Kenny, but Nations wasn't the top selling. Probably thought it was probably the best. I didn't say it was the best selling. I said it was the best album. First of all, rap in 1988 was not at the level that it is now. But PE sold 2 million that year. Double platinum for a rap album was unheard of. But I mean, I don't go by record sales. Record sales is only one criteria to me. But I think It Takes a Nation of Millions. I would like to see another album that somebody could tell me from 88 that was better than that, creatively in their genre. When did George Michael's album drop? That album was incredible. Was that 88? Kazamaza, first time catching you live. One love, hip hop forever. Yes, thank you to all the new people on the check-in. Thank you so much for checking out the channel. We do this every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We just talking ish this week. Edo G. Yo, what's good, my brother? Yo, we go back to 1990. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go out on a limb and say I was one of the first people in New York City to play I Gotta Have It. And the reason I say that is because I was DJing at a club called SOBs back in 1990, and we used to have a night, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday night. We had the Kenny Parker Show. I think it was Tuesday night in SOBs, and I was the house DJ, and everybody used to be in there. And Teddy Ted walked up to me and said, yo, I got a new artist, and he gave me a white label record. And I put it on, the record was playing, I put it on the other turntable, and I listened to it in my ear. And as soon as I heard the beat, yo, brown is my complexion, I was like, oh, and I threw it right on. And it was a white label that Teddy Ted handed to me. So I had never heard it before. And I used to listen to Teddy Ted. I used to listen to Red Alert every week, Marley. So I had never heard this record when he handed it to me. So I'm going out on a limb and saying I was one of the first people to play I Gotta Have It. Edo G says, Chris texted me last week. Dope. He got the pic I sent him that he drew for my mother. In 84, I text him, oh, this is different NOGs. Oh, I text him. Oh, I understand. This is the guy who used to, his mother used to work at the group home with Chris. This is a different NOG. So disregard that whole story. But shout out to NOG from Boston. I saw NOG and I thought you was NOG, but now I know what you're talking about. KRS drew a picture for his mother back in '84, and he still has it. That's dope. Number one, thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. I really appreciate it. He says, salute KP. Did you ever live in LA? I know KRS did at one point. No. KRS moved to LA in 1999 because he got a job. He got a day job as vice president of Reprise Warner Brothers Records. They gave Chris the keys to the castle, and he was vice president of A&R, or vice president of whatever he was, vice president of A&R, vice president of Reprise for about a year and a half. But I used to go out there when we had shows and stuff. That's one of the reasons why I stopped DJing so much for BDP after '99 is because Chris moved to LA and I'm based here in New York. So logistically, it became a little difficult. To answer your question, I did not live in LA, but I used to go out there when we had shows or just go to Chris's house and chill. But it was just too far to travel all the way across country. Hughes Unknown says, I saw the song titled Beef and thought it was an instruction. That's the song that made me stop eating red meat when I heard that song Beef, which I think is one of KRS-One's best songs. Question Blackwell, Kenny, do you remember back in '88 or '89 when American Music Awards gave the R&B award to George Michael over Keith Sweat and Gladys Knight? No, I don't remember that. But George Michael is one of the few white artists that got a lot of play on R&B radio. As a matter of fact, I've seen him mention that before Wham blew up pop, he said it was R&B radio that was playing Wham before he went pop, and he always gives credit to R&B radio for helping to make his career. So I don't know how the American Music Awards, what they use as their criteria, but I remember George Michael used to get a lot of play on black radio. Now, should he have won over that Keith Sweat album in R&B category? I would say no, but Riding Dirty Face says, hit the like button. Yes, please hit the like button if you haven't already. It really helps us out. What is this? Corey Flex said, how serious was the Afros beef? How did you squash that one? I don't remember having beef with the Afros. Please elaborate on that. I was cool with Hurricane. We actually played ball together in a tournament, in a celebrity game. Please elaborate on that. I don't remember any beef with the Afros. This is a good one. The Green Talons. Hey, yo, DJ Kenny P. Salute, King. First time commenting. Boom. What's up, man? Thank you so much. One question. On Exhibit's 2000 album, Restless, the song The Kenny Parker Show, are you familiar with that song? Yes, I am. Do you like it? What's your opinion? Well, the thing about that song is that I didn't know anything about it till it came out. I did a whole breakdown on this channel about the Kenny Parker Show, the original BDP show, the BDP song, and how it all came about. But if you guys, I talk a lot about the music business and publishing on this channel. KRS-One wrote and produced that whole song. So I have no publishing rights. I have no rights at all to the song, The Kenny Parker Show. So they didn't have to ask me for permission to make that song because they went to the person who had rights to the song, which was KRS. And they asked KRS-One, they wanted to do the song over. And he agreed on it. I think he even did vocals on the Exhibit song. So when I heard it, I was like, oh, there's a song with my name on it that I don't know anything about. I thought it was cool. Shout out to Exhibit. I've never met X to the Z. His album sold 1.5 million copies, that album. If I had publishing on that song, on an album that sold 1.5 million, I could have put a down payment on a house or bought a car with the amount of money that song would have generated. But it is what it is. Brandon Yakubian, did you ever go digging at the Roosevelt Records show? Yes, I did an interview with Pete Rock, and we talked about going to that hotel. And I think Evil D, I might have mentioned it when I talked to Evil D on this channel. Pete Rock was one of the kings at the Roosevelt Hotel. Yes, I used to go digging there. Coincidentally, PM Dawn was probably the biggest guy in the Roosevelt Hotel because he used to spend thousands of dollars in there. I believe they used to vendors used to have a special time for him to come in there and just go through all the records. They said his record collection was ridiculous. Rest in peace to Prince B. He was heavy in there. Everybody was in there. Everybody who was anybody digging for records was in the Roosevelt Records show, the Roosevelt Hotel Records show. And yes, I was there. Artwork stuff saying, do your thing, Kenny. It's your show. Thank you. Sweet Goldilocks says, I like the shout out to give people a chance to come in and not miss too much. Sure. I'm gonna continue to give shout. I like to just acknowledge people that come in, man. Like Mr. C, regular on the channel, says, peace, fam. I'm late, but I made it. Thank you so much. I love all you people that come in and this makes my week too. I really appreciate it. Benny Doyle says Sadat X has to show up one week, maybe next week. I don't know about next week, but that would be great. Shout out to Sadat. Taheen, what up, my brother? Engaged. Kitty, I used to walk around with headphones back in the day singing that Nervous song. Wow, I'm getting a lot of heat for not liking Nervous. Let me go. When we get off here, I'm going to go back and listen to Nervous. Maybe I was wrong, but I just felt it was just nervous. It just was weird to me. That was a weird song to me. But apparently, a lot of people like that Nervous record. Nervous Records might have been named after that. Who knows? I know Duck Down Records. Shout out to Buckshot and Drew High. I know Duck Down Records was named after the BDP song Duck Down. I know that for a fact. And Olivia says, Teddy Riley said he did not get his proper royalties from that First Guy album. Of course not. Music business is the most corrupt business of all time. I'm going to do a super duper Benny Doyle all the way scroll down. I'm just going to skip like 50 comments and just jump in right here. Let's see. Oh, this is interesting. Rosman Rock said that he rushed the stage and security snatched him up and walked him out. Strange started arguing with the dudes on stage while they were performing. That's partially how I heard the story. But like I said, I was not there. I heard the aftermath. I heard there was more to the story than that. But I'm not going to dispute Rock. He was in the midst of the story. But how we heard it, there was more to that. Corey Flood, has KRS-One ever met Donald Trump? I don't know. I've never heard him mention Donald Trump, meeting Donald Trump. Chris has met so many people. He might have. I mean, I don't know if Trump booked hip hop acts back in the day, like maybe to his casino. We did some shows in Atlantic City before. I went with KRS to a show in Atlantic City before I was down with BDP. So this is probably like 88. I went with KRS to a show in Atlantic City. It was KRS and Rob Bass. Shout out to Rob Bass. Rest in peace, DJ Easy Rock. So I don't know if Trump booked him, but Tybo says, y'all ask the dumbest questions and they are for KRS or not his brother. Well, no question is dumb on here. I mean, the purpose of us talking is to try to share hip hop knowledge, share stories. I try to give y'all my experience in the game. I be wrong sometimes. I ask you guys questions. Y'all can fact check me. And if I'm ever wrong, I'll admit that I'm wrong. A lot of questions that people ask, obviously, KRS-One would be the one that knows the answer. I know a lot of answers to questions, but some things I can't comment on. It's not my place to comment. So sometimes I'll just say, like, I can't really comment on that. Or some things I know the answer, but I wasn't really there, so I don't really want to say because I could be only have a piece of the story. And I like on this channel, I like to talk about things that either I saw with my own two eyes firsthand, or I got a firsthand account from somebody who was actually there, and I consider a credible source. Once it gets past two people removed from the incident, I consider that a rumor. So everything I try to talk about on here is either firsthand account from someone or I saw it myself. With that being said, I've heard all kind of BDP stories over the years. So some things I can't answer, and some things I don't know the answer to the question. Some things I really can't get into. But ask the questions. I mean, some of these questions that might seem dumb might be a good question that starts a good conversation. Big Dex 86 said, what's your opinion of 13 and Good? You have to go to my breakdown of Sex and Violence on this channel. I did a whole breakdown of the album, Sex and Violence, and I went into detail about my opinion of that song. Sorry, y'all. I'm just scrolling. I see a crazy question. I'm not even gonna touch that one. I don't know what piece of this conversation I'm going to jump in here. Back in '89, New York hated anything outside of New York. It wasn't even back in '89. It was up until it was from 1979 up until the Chronic. I'm going 1989 to the Chronic. New York wasn't trying to hear nobody. You had to be really do something extraordinary to catch our ear. And that's one of the reasons that started the East Coast, West Coast beef. Before Biggie and Tupac, East Coast and West Coast beef was brewing before that. BDP got caught up in a little bit of it. I haven't mentioned it on this channel, but we had a couple of run-ins with some West Coast groups. But I say all that to say, LA's, well, West Coast, I'm speaking for the West Coast. Their argument was they show New York mad love when New York comes out to LA. They play all our records, they come to the shows, they do the whole thing with New York. But when LA tries to come to New York, we don't show no love. And that is true. New York was New York wasn't trying to hear New Jersey. New Jersey, if you guys that's not familiar with the tri-state area, New Jersey is literally across the water from New York. You could stand in Lower Manhattan and look across the river, the Hudson River, and see New Jersey on the other side. If you go through the Holland Tunnel, it's like a 3-4 minute drive. One side is New York, one side is Jersey. And New York wasn't trying to hear Jersey. I don't know if Heather B, shout out to Heather B, she's my first guest on this channel. I don't know if she mentioned this, but for those of you, when she first got down with BDP, her first live show, her first live appearance with BDP was the BDP Hardcore Live videotape, what's it called? Boogie Down Productions Live Hardcore Worldwide. It's the whole video is on YouTube. It's the first rap VHS full-length tape concert recording. I don't know what you can't see or what they don't show is that Chris first, he was introducing the rappers and he said, we got Miss Melody, Harmony. And he said, I got my homegirl from Jersey. And everybody said, boo! They didn't even wait. He didn't even say, I got my homegirl from Jersey, Heather B. She was new. Nobody knew who she was. As soon as he said Jersey, the New York crowd booed. And that was right. Jersey is right next door. We wasn't trying to hear Jersey. It wasn't until, who from Jersey? I mean, we liked Chill Rob G. We liked Rock This Funky Joint. We liked Latifah, but wasn't really like, you didn't know where they were from. I think the first group that was big in New York that was like, we from Jersey and we here was Naughty by Nature, I believe. But that's a long-winded answer to the question of back in '89, New York hated anything outside New York. They did. We're at 1 hour and 12 minutes, y'all. Damn. We do this every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me this long. We just talking-ish. Ilroy, thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. Once again, I appreciate it. He says, your work on sex and violence is legendary. Best BDP album, in my opinion. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That album is bittersweet to me. If you look at the sex and violence breakdown that I did on this channel, you'll understand why I say that. But I really appreciate you for your contribution and for liking the sex and violence album. This is interesting. How did the KRS-One collaboration with Shabba Ranks come about? Did he reach out to KRS-One or was it a record label thing? They definitely reached out to Chris. Now, I don't know who. I don't know if it was Shabba's people or it was the record company. It might have been the record company. I remember there was a woman that worked up there at Sony named, was it Vivian? I think the A&R for Shabba was Vivian. I think Vivian reached out to KRS-One, if I recall. What you guys don't know is I worked on that song, The Jam, uncredited. I'm just going to leave that there. Gregory Netta says, Onyx Last Days is a masterpiece. Word up, son. That's my favorite Onyx song of all time. Last Days. April 17th artwork says, Kenny, definitely get DJ Doc on and other engineers because they help build or bring producers' tracks to life. They never get love. A lot of the engineers was actually co-producers of a lot of these songs in the beginning. And you're right, they don't get love. There's a reason why they don't get love, because if you start, a lot of these producers, you know how I feel about ghost producing on this channel. For those that watch the channel, you know how I feel about that. And the more credit you give to someone else, sometimes is the less credit you get, especially if you're not really doing the work. So a lot of times engineers actually produce the songs, and you can't give them credit because not only does it take credit away from you, but then you got to pay. So yeah, but I'm going to reach out to Doc. That's my dude. Shout out to DJ Doc, an incredible engineer. This is funny. Rapsalute says, how big of a Paul McCartney fan is KRS in real life? There are interpolations of his songs in Criminal Minded, Jimmy, and 100 Guns. Yeah. Surprisingly, and you know what's funny? When we were growing up as kids, I used to listen to a lot of top 40. I could tell it. I'm not going to go deep into the story. It's a long story how I got into top 40 radio. If you guys want me to tell it, maybe I'll tell another time. But I used to be playing a lot of top 40 records in like 78, 79, 80 era. And off the radio, and I didn't have the records. And Chris used to never be listening. He used to be like, like, only record I remember Chris liking as kids, and this is funny, there's a Bruce Springsteen record called Hungry Heart. Do y'all remember that? Everybody's got a hungry heart. I remember Chris used to like that song when we were kids. Oh, putting Chris on blast. But yeah, he used to like Hungry Heart by Bruce Springsteen when we were kids. Now, the rest of this stuff, I don't remember Chris really paying attention to it at all. But then when the music came out, he did Paul McCartney 3 times. He did Billy Joel too. When he said, what's the matter with the clothes out? Don't you know that it's out of touch? Yeah, he sung a whole Billy Joel record and The Bridge Is Over. So Chris is definitely was into his top 40. Kenny, did you know that Johnny Juice did most of the scratching for Public Enemy? I found that out later on. I found that out in like the mid 90s. I had no idea. Shout out to Terminator X. He's a super cool dude, legendary DJ. But like I said, there's a lot of everything is in what it seems, y'all. And I say that every week. Let's see. A lot of people talking about 88. 88 was the year when rap really broke through. You had to really be dope to be heard in that time. 87, 88, into 89. You had to really be, to make your mark, you had to really be dope, man. Really be dope. April 7th artwork said Hank Shockley as a guest. That would be really dope. I haven't seen Hank Shockley. I saw his brother Keith Shockley last summer. Corey Fluss says, I think George Michael Faith came out in 87. Oh. So if George Michael album came out in 87, if that Faith album came out in 87, then It Takes a Nation is definitely the best album of 88. I'm trying to think what album could even compare to It Takes a Nation of Millions creatively. And I was putting George Michael Faith up there, but if that came out in 87, then it's a wrap. Yes, the LG said, not that at OG. Yeah. Sorry. Oh, shoot. Demetrius says, also, Life is Too Short dropped in 88. I forgot about that. Damn. 88 was fire. I see a lot of people getting on me about thinking Ed OG I had the wrong Ed OG. Somebody said I was real excited. I was excited. I mean, Ed OG is the homie. Lethal Flow 5 says, Kenny, is that Marley Marl story true that y'all stole his drum reel and used those drum sounds to make the BDP for his album? The story goes that he claims that Said G stole his drum reel, Ultra, and Ultra co-produced Criminal Minded, and Said G used the sounds. Said G, if you guys watched my Said G interview, he said that's ridiculous. So it says he said, she said. The only Marley sound that I would recognize on Criminal Minded is The Bridge Is Over. The way Marley had filtered that Impeach the President is, I would say those same drums are on The Bridge Is Over, but I don't know if they got it from a Marley reel. I don't know. It's not for the whole album, though. Just for that song. I'm going to do a few more, y'all. We had an hour and 21. I'm going to chill. We're going to rock to an hour 30 if you guys want to. Marquise Bakewell said, Bobby McFerrin, Don't Worry, Be Happy was big in 88. You know what's funny? I used to like that song until Chuck D said in Fight the Power, Don't Worry, Be Happy was a #1 jam. Damn, if I sing it, you could slap me right here. After Chuck said that, I was like, whoop, don't like that song no more. I hold Chuck D and Public Enemy in the highest regard. The highest regard. Oh, Corey Fliss said the Afro's beef was a joke. I made that shit up. Oh, okay. Yeah, because I was like, we had beef with the Afros? I mean, I remember there's a lot going on, but I don't remember beefing with the Afros. B. Fred says, can you do an interview on any artist that was on Rooftop Records like Classical 2? I loved Rap's New Generation. And what's the lead rapper? Sir, what's his name? I can't remember his name. I'm sorry if I'm messing up your name. He's on my Facebook page. I should reach out to him and see if he would come on the channel. That record, Rap's New Generation, was big in New York. B. Fred said, would you say Mantronix was an underrated producer in the 80s hip-hop? Absolutely, I would. He should get mentioned more. Absolutely. Engaged YouTube channel said, I guess we're talking about Prince B of PM Dawn. He said, I keep hearing that story about how much he spent on records. Or Finesse talked about seeing him one time. Yeah. Prince B used to collect records, and because first of all, the records at those record shows be ridiculous prices, man. Ridiculous prices, especially if there's something on it that somebody used or something. Those records were ridiculous prices, and Prince B was paying. The funny thing is, when you listen to his music, it doesn't seem like he had any kind of samples that were not recognizable. So it's almost like he was collecting the records. I didn't listen to PM Dawn's music like that, but the singles that he dropped were pretty recognizable samples. So it didn't seem like he was using those samples to make beats. It seemed like he just was collecting them for himself. Wonder what happened to those records. This is a great Chris Morale. That is it. If you had AI or STEMS technology that exists today, what beats of yours would you go back and do over? Wow. I don't know if I would go back and do beats over, but there's so many records that if you could have removed the vocals, or just pulled the drums out. Do you know how crazy hip hop would have been if you can remove certain parts of records and sample? I can't even imagine, as much as we love hip hop in the sampling era, which I do, I can't even imagine what sampling would have been like if you could remove certain parts, bass lines, and just take a bass line and remove the other parts, or just take the drums or make acapellas. It would have been unbelievable. James Thomas Jr., thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. Story behind We In There video mix. I think I've told the story before. I might have told it on the Sex and Violence breakdown, but I'll tell it to you real quick here. We In There was the first song that I produced for KRS-One. I think it was the very first song I ever produced for him. And it probably was early in the making of the Sex and Violence album. Anyway, the first single was Duck Down. And I do believe We In There was on the back. It was a B-side. And the second single was 13 and Good. Those were already decided by the record company. But as the album progressed, the song that was getting the most reaction at the shows and getting play in the clubs was We In There. Was the song on Sex and Violence album that was getting the most reaction at the time was We In There. So Jive decided to do a third single, which was the first time BDP ever had a third single on an album. Unbelievable. At that point. And so they decided to do We In There as a video, and they're going to do two versions. One was the Ali Shaheed Tribe Called Quest remix, and the other was the original. So they were going to put both versions on the new 12-inch and shoot the video and put both versions. So you might see one version one time or another version another time. But what happened was, the record, the original version, had been out for like 6 months by that point. So I was saying to myself, I just wanted to beef it up a little bit, make a clean version and beef it up a little bit for the video. But Jive, by this point, did not want me anywhere near the studio. And I go into great detail on why with the Sex and Violence album. Long story short, Jive did not want me anywhere near anything that had to do with BDP at all. So while we were making the clean version, I snuck in there and switched the drums just to give it like a little more bottom and like almost like a mini remix. It was like a slight remix. Kept the same music on the top, but I just switched the drums. And I made the dat. And I gave it to the, and it's funny because as soon as I finished it, the representative from Jive came in the studio to get all the dats, and they saw me in there and was like, oh, almost like that, like, oh, Kenny's here. And they just gave him the dats. They didn't know that I had snuck and did the drums over. Nobody noticed. Nobody at Jive. Nobody ever noticed that I switched the drums. The only person that ever said anything to me about switching the drums on We In There was the Notorious B.I.G. The first time I met Biggie, and I talk about this, I have a Biggie Smalls, I think I talked about this in a Biggie Smalls breakdown that I did like 2 years ago on this channel. The first time I met Big, we had the same lawyer. And I met Big when he was just coming out. And he had Look Up in the Sky, It's a Bird, It's a Plane, the remix to Mary J. Blige. That was his claim to fame. He was the guy who said, look up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane. That's when I met him. And he was going, yeah, I love your production, because I was supposed to play him some beats. Actually, I did play him some beats. This is early. This is in like, his album dropped in like 94. So this is like 92. It was like 92. And I was playing him some beats, and he's like, I really like your production. Matter of fact, I want the version of We In There with the different drums. I want that version. Give me that. How do I get that version? And I was telling Big, I was like, damn, there's only one copy of that. And I gave it to the video Jive to give to the video director so they could sync it up to the vocals. I don't even have that. There was only one copy of that. I made it real quick and turned it in. And Big was like, damn. So he was the only person that ever noticed for decades that I switched drums. So if you guys go back and look at the video version of We In There, not the Ali Shaheed remix, but the original, you'll notice that the drums are different. That's a great question. But I go into more detail about sex and violence and the sex and violence breakdown. But Big noticed it. He was a real hip-hop head, man. All right, y'all, we had an hour and a half. I'm going to do like a couple more. We're going to get out of here, man. The Colonel James. Yeah, KP, been a minute, but I'm here. Where you been, bro? One of the regulars. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom, y'all, and just grab one, and I'm out. Let's see. Corey Flood says Ice Cube was the only one from the West Coast who got played in the tri-state area. Yeah, Red Alert used to play the DOC. He used to play the Formula on the radio. I love that album. He used to play the Formula. Ice Cube, because we didn't even really play NWA. We was late to NWA too. That America's Most Wanted album was big in New York. I don't think nobody else. Cypress Hill, we didn't even know they was from the West Coast. Cypress Hill was big. The Killer Man was big here. But really, that was it. Let's see. Trying to find something that would Gregory Netter said Tim Dog versus NWA started the beef. I don't know if it might have started the beef on records. When did that drop? 91? It was around that time. But the West Coast was already grumbling. There was already grumblings around that time about they don't like how New York was treating them. But that definitely, shout out to Tim Dog, that definitely turned up the heat. Mrs. He said New York wasn't trying to hit Philly either, but Schoolie D made it. You're right, because we didn't know it was a Philly record. It was just banging. And we got late. I think PSK came out in 85. It wasn't big in New York till like 86. By the time it blew up in New York, it had been out. But yeah. If they had been like, yo, this is the new guy from Philly, Schoolie D, ears would have just closed. And I'm not saying that's right. I think that's actually wrong. I'm just saying what it is. Def Rock is a Kenny. There were some rappers from New Jersey that got respect in New York, like Lakim. Shout out to Lakim Shabazz. Yeah, Pure Righteousness used to play a little bit, but you didn't really know where these people were from. It wasn't like they was like, yo, we from Jersey and we about to drop this record. It wasn't like that. Records used to just come on and they were banging. So we got with it. But I'm guarantee you, if Lakim Shabazz had started his record off with, I'm Lakim Shabazz from New Jersey, we never would have heard him. Artifacts was later on. By the time Artifacts came out, New York had got over it. Redman, was from Jersey. Yeah, but by the time Redman, that's still later on. Oh, this is interesting. Rosmel said Tretch said that Naughty got booed off the stage, booed on stage when they first performed in NYC when the announcers said they were from Jersey. Exactly. New York, we was on some very elitist-ish. But you got to imagine the MCs that was rocking in 88. Once you hear Rakim the God, Kane, KRS, Slick Rick, PE, Biz, once you get that all in like 6 months, and then somebody else come with some A, B, C, D, E, F, G, you're like, nah, man. I'm not saying it was right, but you really had to come lyrically, you really had to come correct to get heard, man. Or just don't say you from just don't say you're from somewhere else. Just drop your record. All right, y'all. We're an hour and a half. I'm gonna jump off. See, somebody said the greatest era was 86 to 95. I would agree with that. Please hit the like button if you didn't get a chance to hit the like button. It really helps out the channel. I see some kind of y'all be having like your own conversations in the comment section. So sometimes I see stuff and I'm like, what are they talking about? Wax Prophetic. What's good, bro? KP, you ever go to the studio and the engineer told you that your beat wasn't ready to be mixed? First of all, you can't tell me that if I'm paying. Your job is to, I don't work for you, you work for me. So if an engineer tells you your song isn't ready to mix, that's not how it's supposed to go. Your job as the engineer is to help enhance what I'm doing. Now, they could say to you, you know, this wasn't recorded correctly. If there's a technical error, I could see somebody saying, you know, there's feedback or the levels are too hot, so we can't use this. It's not usable because of a recording error. I can hear that. But if an engineer tell me my record isn't ready to be mixed, I could be just doing a demo. I could be doing something that I know is not finished. I'm mixing it for now. So I'm paying you by the hour, mix my song. That's my opinion. Has that ever happened to me? I was fortunate enough to come in at a level. Like I said, when I entered the production game, my first artist I was working with was KRS-One. So an engineer couldn't really tell us that. But I was told that one of my samples weren't synced properly in the SV1200. When I was first coming in the studio, I think I was working with Heather B on an album that never came out. This had to be like 91. I was first starting to mess around the SV1200 and I had looped up a beat and it wasn't exactly on time. I remember the engineer had like an attitude like, oh, yo, man, you need to truncate your sample a little better than this, blah, blah, blah. And he was kind of like a little attitude. And I remember Heather kind of gave it to him a little bit. I didn't even say that. Heather was right on top of him. If y'all know Heather, she was, if I recall, Heather was right on top of this dude. And we never used him again after that. He was actually correct that my sample was a little bit off. But instead of him saying, this is how you fix it, or let me try to fix it, or, you know, something like that, he was more being condescending. And it's like, yo, we're paying. We weren't really paying. Chris was paying, but somebody's paying. So that's my long rant. To answer your question, it happened to me, but that one time. All right, y'all, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you so much. Next week, 8 o'clock Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Somebody, I just saw a comment. MMA Crossfire said, did Prince have an album in 88? When did Sign of the Times come out? If Prince had an album in 88, if Sign of the Times came out in 88, it might be over for PE. I don't remember what year Sign of the Times came out. If Sign of the Times came out in 88, I'm gonna go with that as the album of the year. Outside of Prince, I'm going with PE. All right, that's my last comment. I'm gonna get off. Peace and love, y'all. I'll catch y'all next week. Hit the like button if you didn't get a chance, and